Welcome to the Work for Change podcast. My name is Jean, but it's spelled like Jean.
And my name is John with a silent H. Welcome to episode number 42. Thank you so much for being with us. We have a lot of fun stuff to talk about. We have the Glaudecast podcast, the Brocast today, just me and my brother. We're going to be slanging words and dropping knowledge bombs.
All of them. But before we get into it, I want to talk a little bit about our sponsor. Today's podcast is not sponsored.
Oh, I was like,
by... Wow. Just name a company. Just name any company you want. And today's episode is not sponsored by them.
That's good.
Yeah. You know, we don't need to be sponsored every single episode. I think we're averaging about every other episode right now, actually. But thought that would be a fun little way to start the podcast, is that we are not sponsored this episode, which I like because then you don't have to like force. Our big thing, we've had companies contact us for us to sponsor them. And
for them to sponsor us.
Yes.
It'd be weird if we sponsored them.
Well, you know, hey, Ramlad brought to you by the Work for Change podcast.
Mention us on the app there.
Yeah, that'd be great. It'd be like, all right, now we're going to spend 3 minutes in frog pose. And while you're there, I want to talk about a quick sponsor. That would be the worst. Yeah. I would literally quit. I would 100% be like, nope, not doing this.
Brought to you by Pepsi.
Yeah, or something like, nope, that wouldn't happen. But, you know, like I was saying, I've had a couple companies reach out to us for them to sponsor us. And we've said no. And I think it's a real simple reason. And it's that we don't just want money. Yeah. I just spit all over you right
Thanks,
there.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like, we didn't start the podcast because we're trying to make a ton of money off the podcast. Like, the sponsors, I don't know, at least in my eyes, it's just extra, it's nice to have. And if it's something that I truly agree with, then yeah, 100%.
So, if we're going to get behind the scenes with numbers, we've made about $500,000 this year.
What?
And I have kept all of it from you.
That's amazing. We're killing it then.
Yeah. But, it's, you know, just little small things. It's all the, it's not the real sponsors. It's like the ad placements that I've placed in that no one knows about. Yeah. Where I'm like randomly bringing up like, I don't know, like Pepsi, like we just said, or something. Oh, no. Taco Bell.
Oh yeah,
Taco Bell.
That was actually a rogue placement you guys didn't know about.
Yeah, and I got a nice $480,000 out of that placement. So.
You know what? Like one thing, wasn't even something we were planning on talking about, but one thing that I've always kind of found to be a little bit crazy is the fact that so many athletes and stuff are like endorse McDonald's. Like when the Olympics are going on, like they have Olympic athletes endorsing McDonald's, and like they're one of the sponsors, I think, or at least definitely Pepsi is one of the sponsors
100% Pepsi
of the Olympics.
Or is it Coca-Cola?
I don't know. It doesn't matter. All the same thing, right? Yeah. Like that is unbelievable to me. I wonder.
Like it'll like McDonald's would be like the official fast food sponsor of the Olympics, and it's like no.
Or like Pepsi definitely is part of the Super Bowl, right? So it's like I wonder, like, especially if you're an athlete, how much, like, I'm curious, like, I truly don't think there's any amount of money that they could offer me for me to be like, okay, I'll endorse McDonald's or anything. Because McDonald's is whatever. Like, if you can go there and find something that's healthy, but it's like, come on.
So, like the switch within the sugar industry, like CrossFit's got this, like, holy quest against the sugar and Coca-Cola industry and Pepsi. And the switch that Coca-Cola has made, like, within their lawsuit practices is that they go, like, no, you shouldn't drink it every meal. But, you know, if you pair Coca-Cola with healthy activity, like, you'll be fine. And it's like their switch is kind of like, if you just negate all the calories that you get from drinking our soda, you're fine, you know? And it's like, it's such a weird, because like to some extent, or no, not to some extent, to the full extent, that is true. Like if you can negate the calories you're drinking from soda,
absolutely.
Like
of course,
you'll be okay. Now maybe the fact that you can pour like Coca-Cola on your battery and have it dissolve all the acid is probably not the best thing for your stomach, but like calorically and like weight gain wise, like you will be fine if you're offsetting those calories. But for that to be the main sponsor of the pinnacle feat of athletics every 4 years in the Olympics. Like, it's just
it's crazy, man.
And
like,
to get there where you're like where Pepsi like makes a proposal to the Olympics. You know, like the first time Pepsi promoted, well, maybe they didn't know it was that bad then, and maybe it's just like it's carried over. You know what I mean? Like when cigarettes were sponsors of things, and then people started realizing how bad cigarettes were, and then they started like pulling them off. But it's like maybe Pepsi's kind of been this like before there was any research or anything against it, and then now that there is, but they've kind of maintained the ties with the Super Bowl, with the Olympics, to where they still are able to be like a title sponsor.
It's hard for me to even think about, like, I try and think, okay, what's the point of having soda? Like, having a soda, right?
Bubbles. Addiction.
Yeah, well, like, I was addicted to soda, right, when I was heavier. I would drink easily a 2 liter a day. Like, I would go to, is that cold brew that you're drinking?
Yeah.
It looks like a smoothie. But that's besides the point. I would drink, like, I would go to 7-Eleven and they had the double gulps, that's a 2 liter of soda. Basically, it's just in a different container. And I would drink that with like a lunch or maybe even just a snack. Like, I got chips and I drank that. And then so I was drinking easily a 2 liter a day. I don't think that they would ever try and say that that's a smart idea, right? But even now that, I know so much about calories, I know so much about that stuff, it's like, what's the reason for soda really to exist? Like, really, like most really terrible junk food, right? What's the reason for it to exist? It's to make you addicted to it, I would say. And I don't know, it's crazy that they have permeated the culture so much that it's like, I would say that Coca-Cola is more like their brand, their logo is more recognizable than like, I think I was watching a documentary. It's like more recognizable than like Santa Claus, and like even Jesus.
Yeah, that was in Super Size Me.
Was it?
Ronald McDonald was known more than a picture of Jesus. Yeah.
So that is just, it's absolutely insane to me.
Well, I mean, think about it all the way like to its like core thing. Like, I'm trying to think about. So I'm currently watching Mad Men. Don't spoil it for me.
Well, I think you'll be fine.
If they spoil it for me.
How are they going to spoil it for you?
Because I read the YouTube comments.
Oh, okay. Don't read the YouTube comments.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry, guys.
I'm in season 1, like 5 episodes in. I just started it, 6, 7 episodes in. But like the like advertisement agencies and like the way
explain what Mad Men is. Not everyone in the world's seen it.
Yeah, well, I was just trying to regain my thought. That's what I was doing right there. Mad Men is about advertisement agencies within the 1960s, and they were like pitching ideas to companies and trying to sell them. They're trying to sell their ideas to companies, so companies will be like, yeah, I want to go with this advertising firm, and then they're the people who are promoting that company, and they get the account. And so it's like these like guys who brainstorm, and it's very like misogynist and very, I mean, it's just...
That's the point of...
it's portraying the 1960s in a very but I think it's written by a girl, which is pretty interesting. Don't quote me on that. I just saw a name when it said written by, and it looked like a girl's name. But it could be a guy.
It could be Jean.
It could be.
Or Jean.
Yeah, exactly. But, like, okay, so all the way down to there. What do we call sweets? We call them sweets and treats. And, like, it's this whole idea where it's like, get the steak because you're a man. You deserve it. Or, like, eat this thing because you deserve it. Like, because freedom. You know, it's like we tie in high calorie, low quality, whatever, and we tie that in with, well, I deserve it because I worked hard. So then you're kind of like, it portrays this in this like, well, I should be able to have this food. You know, because we've now removed nutrients from the equation and added motivation, added reward, added all that to it. So it's like really hard because when you deny that, like when you deny that treat that you deserve, you are now punishing yourself. It's no longer this is a good nutrient or a bad nutrient or high or low. Like, it's no longer that. It's, well, I don't get the treat. don't get the reward anymore. And so now you feel like you're punished, but that should have never crossed that line into punishment or reward anyway. It should be goal, nutrient, caloric, you know. I think it's very interesting that that's probably where a lot of it comes from, is we feel like we deserve that.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. There's actually a really big trend right now. So one of my friends on YouTube, his channel name's Swolenormous. He's been talking a lot about like Instagram nutritionists and registered dietitians. There's this big like movement of them saying, eat whatever you want, don't restrict anything because you deserve it, right? And it's crazy because it's always like they're always saying, eat whatever you want, and it's always cookies and pizza and stuff. And it's like, well, yeah, you should eat. Like, you shouldn't feel like you can't have things, but at the same time, it's like if you're addicted to food or if you're struggling with that stuff, you have a bad relationship. I feel like, and this is just me, and I would love to hear your opinion, but I feel like if you're a registered dietitian, you know, you have that in your bio, that's what your whole account's about, to just sit there and be like, eat whatever you want. You shouldn't ever restrict ever. I don't understand why that is the message instead of like, learn about what foods are better for you, are more nutrient dense, and maybe try and make sure you have enough of those. Don't be afraid to treat yourself, because that's what it is, right? It's a treat.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be what it's always about. Have as much, like there was a post that it was this girl, they're always like split posts. It's like this side and then that side, right? The first side was she was holding a thing of cereal. It was like, oh, I can only have one serving of this. And the other side was like, I could have as many servings as I want until I feel satisfied. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, that's going to be the whole box for me then.
Yeah.
Like that, I don't understand. And that's, again, registered dietitian on their page, they're saying that. And it's like, I don't know what exactly they had in the bio or in the description of that post, but for that to be the message that you're spreading, I think that's honestly dangerous.
Yeah. I mean, I think we talked about this before, but I'll bring it in with a story. 1776.
Oh my gosh.
I was born. No. 1776, we are, in the middle of, or around the end of a revolutionary war in America. And against our oppressors, Britain. And we decided to write this constitution. And this constitution was basically everything that England wasn't. So no king, it's ruled by the people. No this, we're going to do this. And it was like this huge reactionary tool against what they already knew. And then once they made it, they realized, oh my goodness, there's basic human rights that we're ignoring. And so then the first 10 amendments, which were made right away, are the Bill of Rights. And it's talking about the right to speech, the right to a fair trial, the right to bear arms.
Never say you've never learned anything from this podcast,
yeah,
guys.
Yeah.
All right? This is history right now.
But it's the reactionary tool actually ended up being oppressive because there was no rights to human beings. It was just this ethereal thing that didn't have any ground roots. So what I think and what I see all the time is dietitians, nutritionists, you've gone through a lot of school to be that. And so yeah. I'm not discrediting anything you're saying. I just think the approach in which you're going is the wrong way. Because I think if England was the oppressor of the United States, I think the bro diet is the
diet culture.
Yeah. You need to eat chicken, broccoli, rice.
The extreme diets.
You know what I mean?
Atkins and stuff like that.
That is the oppressor of fitness. And so the immediate reaction is to be everything that's not. But what you don't realize is that you lose people in that because it's the extreme, and now you're not thinking about people's rights or balance, if you will, if you want to call it balance. And so they're trying to be these everything ignore it, throw it out the window. And in order to get their voice heard, they have to be extreme. And then they forget that there's this happy thing called the middle, where it's yeah, you should probably eat more chicken and more protein and more whole foods, but also that doesn't mean that now you're never allowed to have a Snickers, or Taco Bell.
Yeah.
Thanks, another $480,000 in my pocket right there. You know what I mean? Like, I think, like, I see that, and we are so apt to pendulum swings when the middle is a lot. It's, I don't know. I think that we just ignore it all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's because with anything, it's always more fun to be on the extremes as far as what you're going to say, the things you're going to post, right? They're always going to be more extreme when you're on the extreme fringes. And so it's crazy to me that that's where it's gone. And I try to always understand who are they trying to help? Because they're not posting stuff just to be ridiculous, right? In their heads, I'm sure they're trying to help people. And so I think it's, trying to help the person that maybe has always put negative or positive connotations on food. So it's like, if I eat cereal, or if I eat too much cereal, or if I have a cupcake, I'm bad. Not just like the food's bad, but that's where it starts, right? The food's bad, so in turn, I'm bad for doing this. So it's trying to correct that, which is a noble thing to do, and I think it's good. I don't think that we should put these negative connotations on food. I think instead of saying this food is healthy and not healthy, that's why I don't really like to use that. I like to say this food is going to be more nutrient dense, maybe fill you up a little bit more, and this food's going to be less nutrient dense and have more sugar or whatever. And so when you look at it like that, it's like, okay, you can have that one cupcake, and it's not like, oh, I'm so bad, or that was so bad. It's like, no, it tasted really good. I understand that it wasn't the most nutrient dense thing to eat, but that's it. You know what I mean? Like we don't have to put these labels, and I think that that's where they're coming from, and that's the person they're trying to help is the person that, there's the word for when you only eat healthy food. There's like I forget what it's called exactly.
Orthorexia?
Orthorexia, there we go. That people have where it's like, I can only eat healthy food, and if I eat unhealthy food, like you freak out, right? You end up binging and stuff. So I'm assuming that that's where they're coming from. And maybe a lot of these nutritionists, maybe we're dealing with that, or dietitians, we're dealing with orthorexia, and they're trying to, with helping themselves, maybe help other people, which is a noble effort. Uh-huh. But when you are using these extremes and you're saying all this stuff, you have to understand that, especially, if your profile is public, anybody can see it. So you don't know who is reading what you're putting out there. You have to be aware of the words that you're speaking. So it's, instead of saying I can have as much cereal as I want, maybe just word it a different way, or understand that there's nothing wrong with eating cereal, but maybe not the best idea to eat 14 bowls because that happens.
But okay, so I know that you don't think. Well, that's.
What do you know, Jean?
No, that's wrong. What I'm saying. You have a big thing against like fat burning and all that because
fat burners.
Yeah, to the everyday person who doesn't know anything about fitness, that's deceiving. Mm-hmm. You would also agree, though, that there is some responsibility on the individual to learn.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean? Like, I know, like, you're not saying that the individual should have no responsibility. But it shouldn't be 100% on them. But there should be like a good give and take within companies. Mm-hmm. So there needs to be like you as a consumer, you as a person who is on a fitness journey, there has to be some responsibility on you to know and to learn, even to start the process of learning. Mm-hmm. Just don't rely on everyone else because that's when you get tossed to and fro in the tides. With that being said, when you go on Instagram. And maybe you are following someone who, and like I've said it before, and I don't want to say it to be insensitive, but like a lot of these people on Instagram who have a platform seem to be reactionary against some form of maybe disorder that they had or have. Mm-hmm. The reason why that person has a perfect body is because there's something in them they're afraid of eating unhealthy food. And so like we hold them up as like this like person you need to be, but in reality you don't know what their demons are. Mm-hmm. And so with that, oh no, I think I lost my train of thought there because I just don't want to like.
You're trying to tiptoe around things too much.
I know.
So there's, while you kind of think about what you're going to say, because I want to hear that.
Yeah.
There's something that I wanted to talk about. So, because you brought up...
Wait, I got it.
Okay.
I got it. Now that we're back. Okay, so the responsibility of the individual is that you need to look at that person and recognize that they have demons too. And they have huge things that they are battling. And so for them to say, I can eat as much cereal as I want, is more of a reflection of where their mental space is. Mm-hmm. That maybe they had been restricting to one bowl of cereal for 10 years because they were so afraid of gaining weight and getting fat. Mm-hmm. And then finally they realized, there's a lot more freedom. I have a lot more freedom than I thought I had. I can have as many bowls of cereal as I want. It's like, that is great for them because that is a mental reflection of where they are physically. Mm-hmm. That is not a free pass saying no matter how much cereal you eat, you won't gain weight. So the responsibility as you're scrolling, recognize that we all have demons. We all have things we're going through. And to not put what they say as your new truth.
I agree. I think that if you're talking about a regular influencer, 100%.
Like someone from like 10,000 to 15,000
No,
followers.
not even. No, it could even be more than that. If you're talking about just a regular person that posts workout stuff and like fitness content, absolutely. I disagree that it's like, I think that if it's just a fitness person, it's a lot easier to make that distinction. But when it starts to become someone that is a registered dietitian or a nutritionist, it makes it harder for the person looking at the content to be able to think that way. Because I know that when I see those, RD or nutritionists and stuff, or even like doctors, right? Like when I see those, it's just so natural to be like, oh, they know what they're talking about. Oh, I should agree with this. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, so that's why I think there's more responsibility. Everyone's responsible for their actions, but there's more responsibility when you're a nutritionist or a dietitian and you are like your whole page is about that fact, right? Your whole page is about you being dietitian, nutritionist. So I agree, and yeah. I agree with what you're saying, but what I'm saying is that it makes it harder for the person, especially if you're starting your journey, you don't know much, and you see this person that in your head you're like, oh, they must know what they're talking about. Then instead of, oh, it's just like a fitness person, maybe I'll believe them, maybe I won't.
Yeah.
I'll do a little bit more research, because it's so easy to see those titles and be like, oh, they definitely know what they're talking about. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. So now I got a question for you.
Okay.
You're pretty certain in calories in, calories out is the method for weight loss.
For most people, yeah.
Okay. I am not as vocal on that when it comes to diet, when it comes to food.
Is there a reason?
Yeah.
Why?
Because there are a whole heck of a lot smarter people than me.
I agree.
Saying other stuff. Mm-hmm. But the people who I see have the greatest impact are the calories in, calories out, like balance your fitness and your lifestyle. Those are the people, like, it's almost like you have like these upper level people who are all, thinking and writing. And then you have these like grunts down here who are like, calories in, calories out.
It made me think of Halo.
Yeah,
yeah. You just one shot them.
Yeah, but they're like, wow. Yeah. But like they're the ones on the ground level.
I'm literally picturing them like at computers, like typing furiously.
But like
on the Instagram.
Yeah. But like they're the troops. Like they're the ones who are doing the hand-to-hand combat and making change. And they're like, what are you talking about? Blah blah blah. Like whatever ethereal thing up here. Like, I'm doing this and I'm seeing this person change. I'm doing this. I'm seeing the person I think of a lot is like Jordan Syatt, and he comes and he like has both perspectives because he's got a degree and he does that and that's his, and he's also on the ground level, and so it's like I believe in calories in, calories out, macros. You know what I mean? I totally 100%. I don't understand then. Why are there these people with many more degrees than me who say something completely different?
So, one, I want to say that was a really good question. I agree that there are way smarter people for me. So, it honestly is hard for me sometimes, most of the time, to like sound sure of myself. And like people get annoyed with me on videos and probably on the podcast because I'm always almost taking a step back, trying to like, say not everything I say is 100% fact, but I agree. I think there are smarter people that agree with what I say and smarter people that disagree with what I say. 100%. One of the things that helps me stay grounded and makes me feel like what I believe, and again, it's what I believe from my own anecdotal experience, right? From losing the weight. But then from everybody that I've talked to, calories in matter, right? Calories in, calories out, it matters. I haven't spoken to one person that I actually respect and is like, no, it doesn't matter. You can eat as many calories as you want and lose weight as long as your hormones are balanced or whatever the argument is. So I take solace in the fact that people like Jordan, people like my friend Spencer Nadolski, Dr. Nadolski on Instagram, very smart person that I really trust his opinion. He agrees as well, so like, I think that's why it helps me because there's some very smart people that I agree with, right? And then as far as like, this is my own opinion, but from what I've seen, almost always the people that are very vocal about not agreeing with calories in, calories out and not agreeing with that. Because like for me, when I say calories in, calories out, I am talking about weight loss. Weight loss and eating for health are different things.
Yeah.
Like you can be at a normal weight and be very unhealthy because your diet's garbage, right? Like I think that the calories in, calories out, if you're focusing on weight loss, is the most important thing. But almost just as important is the quality of your food. When we're talking about weight loss, if we're talking about general health, the quality of your food is the most important.
Yeah.
So I just want to say that. But from what I've seen, the people that might disagree and have opinions to the opposite are almost always selling something. They're almost always, there's an incentive for them to disagree with calories in, calories out. So
Kaiko.
Yeah, Kaiko, yeah. So that's kind of that's what I think, and that's what I've noticed. That's what I've seen. So I don't know. What do you think about that?
It's really hard. I guess it is hard. Like it's hard to feel sure, and it's hard to like calories. Like macros were the first thing I learned when it came to weight loss. Like a lot of people, for a lot of people, their first experience is keto. You know what I mean? For a lot of people, their first experience is Atkins, is whatever, or these like huge programs. Like for mine, it was calories in, calories out. And so for me to think that the first one I stumbled upon is the right one, I'm cautious about that because I don't want to be like, nope, I don't want to hear everyone else's opinion. But when it comes to like sustainability and when it comes to being in control and not hoping that you hit ketosis or not hoping that someone gives you more, like whatever, like when it puts you in a position where you are in complete control, how many calories you have, how many calories you don't have, that seems like the most sustainable. And when you learn that, hey, if I have a pizza, it's this, blah, 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 and I can still bring it in the day, or if I want to feel really full, I'm going to have this huge salad with whatever, giving complete control to the individual is the most freeing, but I'm cautious because it is the first thing I learned.
I understand that.
But I'm not, because it's the first thing I learned, I'm not automatically like loyal to it. But amidst everything else I've heard, it's still the one to me that makes the most sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So for me, when I think of calories in, calories out, I don't even think of it as a diet. Like it's just the rules. I feel like that other diets play by. So like when you talk about keto, there's definitely a group of people that think that you can eat as much as you want and be on keto. I would say most people that I've actually talked to, that I don't think are insane, will say, no, you need to be in a deficit still. Keto just helps me be in a deficit, right? Because you're almost completely cutting out a macronutrient, right? You're almost completely cutting out carbs and you're eating a lot of fat, which we know fat is the most satiating macronutrient. And so
keeps you fuller longer.
It keeps you fuller longer. So that's like kind of, so yeah, keto, it definitely works for some people, but I would say the reason it works is because it helps you get in that deficit, right? And the same thing with any Weight Watchers, with Atkins, with like any plug in whatever you want there. The reason I feel like any diet works is because it helps you get in that deficit. And if that diet is keto, if that diet's Atkins, that's fine. The reason I preach this so much is I want you to understand why.
Yeah.
Why is this working for me? Because when you eventually maybe want to get off keto or Atkins or Weight Watchers, you understand the reason I lost weight was because I was in a deficit, not because the magic keto fairy or the magic Atkins fairy made me lose weight.
So I have a friend who goes to the gym and also goes to the church I go to.
Who's a friend, huh?
Not you.
A friend.
Yeah.
Not you,
Not
right?
Sam. Not me.
you?
No, real.
I have a friend whose name is Jean.
Yeah. And he's on the weight loss journey. Just started going to Dark Side recently. We work at the same church together. And the way he lost his weight is this very, like, it's like he got this huge binder workbook. And it was all about nutrition and everything. And then, like, the first couple months, it was all meals they provided for you. And it was a lot of bars. And, like, I really didn't like that. Like, I was just like, man, there's no way that, like, what happens when work goes out for lunch and you're like, oh, I got my bar, don't worry. But that's just to get you at a point where you start losing weight. And then I don't remember how long of a program it is. You could go on it for life if you wanted. But the goal of it is that, like, at first it is highly restrictive. But then, like, I don't know, couple weeks go by, and then they say, for lunch, don't eat a bar, eat your own food. Here's what we recommend. And then, like, slowly what they do is they, like, introduce real food that you have to make and tell you why, and, like, this, you know, I think it's a point system. Like, this has this many points, this has this many points. But it's based off of macros anyway. And eventually the goal is that you are completely off all the bars and shakes and all that and snacks. And then they bring you to cooking your own food the whole time. What do you think about stuff like that? Because that is that's not like what someone's selling you on Instagram. That is like a registered dietitian has created this entire workbook and program and meals and everything to help you along your journey.
That's a really good question. I definitely feel like I was probably used to be a little bit more, like, I would have a lot stronger of an opinion.
Because do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
I think that, I don't think it's necessary. I really don't. Again, that's not to take, but at the same time, it's like, it's not to take away from what someone's doing to improve their health, right? Like, that was obviously the goal. I actually recently put out a tweet. Let's see if I can find it real fast. But it was kind of about that whole situation, not exactly that, but about, like, things like that. So what the tweet says is, let's see, where's it at? It says, okay, so when it comes down to it, whatever you do that helps you stay healthy and happy, I am all for. I have my preferences, of course, but the most important thing is that we understand we all want the same thing. So, like, for a long time, like, I definitely had, like, this vendetta against these companies, and I still think I would say I do. I don't think that most people need to do them. But at the same time, like we were talking about earlier, it comes down to a lot of it comes down to the person. Like, if you truly think that this program is going to work for you, but you do no research about why, you do no research about what to do afterwards, like, if you were that person that's like, I'm just going to stay on this program for the rest of my life, you're going to fail. Like, I'm not trying to be negative. That is just the truth, right? So, if that's something you want to do, go for it. But, like, it's not going to last forever. But if you truly go into the program knowing, like, when I started my weight loss, I had no idea what I was doing at all, right? So I just kind of ate really basic foods that, like, anybody would consider healthy, right?
Yeah.
So, but if you want to just go into it and be like, I know that I'm going to eat these bars, they're going to, hopefully, if you, like you said, it's made by a registered dietitian and they know what they're talking about, there's going to be enough nutrition in it to where I'm not like this sounds crazy, but like a lot of people like will lose their hair because they're on these crazy diets and they're not getting enough nutrition and they're literally like, so it's like, as long as you're getting enough nutrition, but I would say most importantly, you're doing research for one, why you're losing weight. And the reason, like we said, that I believe is because you're in a deficit, and it's probably a very big deficit on those programs. You have to understand that like that weight loss, it's going to happen at the start and it's going to be very quick probably, but it's going to slow down. And as long as you have a plan for when you get off, like, again, it's not my first choice, and I would recommend someone try and find another way. But if that's something that works for you, I'm not going to sit there and talk down to you about it, because you did something about your health and you tried to make things better. And like, I think that you can use a program like that and then eventually be successful off of it. It's definitely hard and it's not the norm, but I think that it's possible.
Okay, now I have 2 questions for you.
Okay.
First one. What is the most... Okay, we're talking about people losing weight, and then we're also talking about health. So, what is the most important tool for someone who's losing weight?
Knowledge.
Knowledge?
Absolutely. Knowledge about how to lose weight, why you're losing weight, and just like doing, not just knowledge that's out there, knowledge that you gain. Like doing research on your own. Don't just trust a coach. Like there's nothing wrong with getting a coach. There's nothing wrong with anything like that. But like we've talked about, we want to make a program. That's something that we want to do, right? Me and you. And with this program, what we want to do is we're not going to tell you what to eat. We're not going to tell you what to do. We're going to give you all of the knowledge that I think is necessary, because I've always felt knowledge is the most important thing. So I would say knowledge.
You wouldn't say the scale? For weight loss?
Absolutely not.
Okay. What is the most important tool for maintaining health?
For maintaining health?
Yeah.
Knowledge.
Like if you're like healthy, like you just want to live a healthy life. Knowledge?
Knowledge. Like it's without a doubt.
So where does the scale fit?
Okay, so the scale is important. I think that but it's a tool. Like I understand where you're coming from now. So it's definitely, I'm not sure if you meant like actual thing.
I literally meant a physical item.
Oh, a physical item.
Like what's the most important physical item for someone losing weight? And I'm like springing it on you, so
I don't know. I'm not
able to prepare.
I would say it's different. That would be different for everybody, because for a lot of people, the scale ends up being this horrible devil of a thing. For a lot of people, the mirror ends up being a horrible devil of a thing. So it's like, I think that's going to be a personal question for everybody. But when it comes to, so let's just talk about the scale.
Yeah.
Right. So the scale can be very helpful when you're losing weight, because you can, I actually like when people, again, everybody's different. So just know that, right? I'm not saying you have to do this, but I liked when I was losing weight, I liked tracking it every day. Not because I would like stress out about the number on there, but it was interesting to see how much my weight could fluctuate. Because say if you're only weighing yourself once a week, and you weigh yourself on Mondays, and one Monday you're 250 pounds, and then the next Monday you're 251 pounds, and you're like, what the heck, I gained a pound? But if you're weighing yourself every day, you notice how much you fluctuate. You can fluctuate 6 pounds in a day. So maybe the day before that you were 146 pounds, but you just didn't see that, right? So I think that the scale can be really useful in that, if you just look at it as a tool. But it's hard to take away, like a lot of people put their worth on that number. And so I get that. I understand that. And for some people, you have to take a step away from the scale for a while and put it in the closet or whatever, get rid of it. That's fine. But I think that it can be very, very helpful. And the same thing for when you're maintaining weight. Because a lot of people, when you want to maintain weight, we end up not using the scale anymore, or we put our heads in the sand and say, I don't want to weigh myself. But it's a lot easier to maybe make modifications. You definitely don't need to weigh yourself constantly when you like trying to maintain, but doing it relatively frequently, just so you can be like, okay, I'm staying around the same way. I'm not saying like, I don't weigh myself that much. I really don't. Now I weigh myself like maybe once a week at most. Like a lot of times I just forget to. But like as long as I mean, and now it's like I can see in the mirror, I can see how I look. Like I understand, you know, I don't need to look at the scale, but it's nice to kind of always take a step back and look at that number and be like, okay, am everything that I'm doing, is it working? Mm-hmm. And so the scale is definitely, I don't think it's the end all be all, but it can be a helpful tool. It's just everybody's different. So some people are going to put too much stock in that number, and that's not going to be healthy. So maybe for a little bit you need to put it away. But I don't think that it's necessary for, like, there's a huge thing going on right now in the health at every size movement where you refuse to be weighed when you go to the doctors. Uh-huh. And I think that that's taking a little far. Uh-huh. Because, I mean, it's a genuine thing that doctors should know. And, you know, the argument is that when doctors see how much you weigh, they assume everything that's wrong with you is about your weight, which I think is wrong, and I don't think they should do that. Yeah. But I think that just completely, again, putting your head in the sand and saying, I will not weigh myself, it's like, why? You know? That's just my opinion, though.
I wonder, like, to not just completely disagree with them, but, like, to give them a fair point, like, I wonder what benefit is it to the doctor to know how much you weigh? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what does that change if you have diabetes or not? You know what I mean? Like, so to need to be weighed every single time, maybe it is like a practice that is just done because it's done without really a lot of bearing behind it. Because I know that I register as overweight on every single
BMI scale.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I think that, like, the health at every size movement is an interesting movement. And, like we talked about last week, I'm not completely immersed in fitness culture. Mm-hmm. You know, like, I kind of, I dive into it once a week on this podcast and then as a hobby. You know what I mean? But, like, I definitely see what they are trying to do, which is saying, like, just because that person looks that way doesn't mean they're unhealthy. They just might be curvy, or they might be, you know what I mean? Like, but then the extremes in it take it way too far. And again, like, I think I'm okay with the middle ground. Like, I'm okay with that middle. Like that, like, hey, like, we need to bring some awareness to the fact that just because someone isn't a stick doesn't mean they're unhealthy. Mm-hmm. Like, I totally agree with that. But I'm not for the extremes. An example would be that Obese to Beast, inspiration, advocate, fat shamer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, to take a message that you are obviously just trying to help people and show people, hey, here's how I lost weight. I think you can do it too. Let's do it. And then be like, wow, you hate fat people. Like, there's a perversion there. Mm-hmm. There's something that you have glasses on and they are completely the wrong prescription for you, so you're seeing everything wrong. Mm. Like, I don't know. I see where they're coming from on the good side of it, but the extreme, I just am like, I don't know.
I've always said that I truly think that for most of, like, the body positivity, fat acceptance, and, you know, health at every size, for most of it, I agree. You know, but once it starts getting to the extremes, like, there was this account that was, you know, basically calling me fat phobic, a fat shamer. And, like, they even made posts about, like, they said something like X fats are the worst fats. And it's like, so you're boiling someone's whole identity down to their size, which is what you disagree with, right? Like, the whole movement is that I am not only my size, but then, again, I want to make it clear, I think that most people in these movements don't agree with that extreme. Mm-hmm. But I think that it should be important for them to speak out about the extremes, which is what I try and do about fitness, right? A lot of the fitness industry is too extreme, and it's detrimental. Yeah. And I think that that's the same thing that's happening with the health at every size, is that I get messages every day of people saying, I used to agree with it, I used to be part of it, but now it's gotten to a point where it's so radical that I can't agree with it because I feel stupid agreeing with it because of the things that these people are saying, like calling me a fat shamer, or, you know, saying X fats are the worst fats. And again, that is the whole point of your message, is to not judge me and completely say everything about me is because of my weight, but then calling someone an ex-fat. So their whole identity is the fact that they used to be overweight. Mm-hmm. It's like, again, it always comes down to the extremes are we need the pendulum has swung too far, and
well, so what, like, why do they say ex-fats are the worst fats? Let's go there.
So I think the main point was the fact that, like, when you're ex-fat or whatever, is like you encourage people to lose weight and try and do what you've done. Mm-hmm. So me trying to post it, so it was a before and after picture of this person. So they reposted my thing and then they made a whole rant, right? So the whole argument was that posting before and after pictures is toxic, and it shows that I'm saying one body is better than the other and more valuable. Mm-hmm. And again, that is all that's them portraying that, because I've never said that I hated myself. That's why I changed. Mm-hmm. I've always said that I loved myself enough to change, right? Mm-hmm. I loved myself and I didn't want to die before I was 40 years old. And so, like, I truly think that if I hadn't lost weight right now, I might be immobile if I was alive.
Yeah.
And so my message is never, you should lose weight because it's disgusting and I hate fat people. No, it's not that at all, ever. And I would never agree with that. And so I think that they think me posting before and afters is saying, if you are overweight, you're not valuable. You need to lose weight to become valuable. I think putting your value on any sort of number is dangerous, and it's not the truth. But at the same time, you need to understand that when it comes to wanting health for yourself and wanting to live the best life, losing weight can help with that, especially if you are morbidly obese and normal tasks have become hard. The argument is always, well, things in the world are not meant for people my size. I agree that it can be hard when you want to go to a amusement park and you can't fit into certain things, or you want to sit at a table and you can't fit into that. I understand that's hard, but it's not always about the world around us. It's about what you can do. I was getting so big that it was going to become very hard to wipe my own butt when I went to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Right? That's not society not fitting for you. That's your body becoming too big to function.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to tie my own shoes. Is that the shoe person's fault, or is that something on me? Right. Yeah. So it's like, there's definitely some things that are harder for a bigger person, going bungee jumping, there's usually a weight limit. Mm-hmm. Going like skydiving maybe, or like one thing I was afraid of was I always wanted to snowboard when I was bigger, but I was afraid they wouldn't have any clothes that would fit me. Mm-hmm. Understandable. But at the same time, it's not always about those things. It's about the things that in your life that have become hard. Getting up off of a couch was hard.
Yeah.
So that's always my thing is, if your weight is becoming a hindrance for you, that's a problem in my eyes. And there might be other people that disagree. Mm-hmm. And again, like I am not against being a little bit overweight. We can't. That's the thing with the health at every size. I would say for the majority of people, you can't look at them and say whether they're healthy or not. But when we look at the extremes of morbid obesity, 200 pounds overweight, not healthy, right? Especially in the long run. Like, you might be 20 years old right now and be fine, which, like, I would say I was pre-diabetic, but everything else was fine. Mm-hmm. If I stayed that way until I was 40, one, I might not be alive, or two, my life would be really, really tough.
Yeah.
Right? And the same thing goes for someone that's very, very skinny, anorexic. Again, at the time, they might be all right. They might be able to walk around. But if they stay that way for a long time, they're going to die. Like, mm-hmm. Everyone knows that. That's accepted. And so my argument is never that you need to be shredded six-pack freaking Adonis body. Mm-hmm. No.
Like me?
Yeah, like you.
Yeah.
You don't need that. You need health if you want to live for a long life. Mm-hmm. And like we were kind of talking about this earlier, I would say that the biggest issue is what we're portraying to children. Because childhood obesity is, just like obesity, it's skyrocketing. So should the message we be sending out is that you can be healthy at any size. I think that is unbelievably dangerous for children. Should you be positive about your body? Should you love yourself? Absolutely. I agree with body positivity almost 100%. You shouldn't, like, kids always make fun of everybody, right? But, like, you shouldn't be making fun of kids because they're overweight. You shouldn't be doing any of that stuff. Absolutely. We should not be saying to children it is okay to be morbidly obese. Because the more and more I go out and I see kids that are super large, and it honestly breaks my heart because I know what you're going to miss out on in life, right?
Yeah.
There's definitely kids that are overweight and then they grow out of it, right? Yeah. That was something that Mom used to always say, like, oh, you're just going to hit a growth spurt and you grow out. You'll stretch all the fat will go from here and it'll stretch out and you'll get taller. Mm-hmm. It never happened. But it's definitely not like every kid that's overweight right now is going to grow up and be morbidly obese, of course. But when a kid is over 200 pounds and they're still in elementary school, like that's not, they're set up for a really bad life. Mm-hmm. Not because people are going to make fun of them, not because, they're disgusting because they're overweight, but because their mobility is going to be terrible by the time they're 20 years old.
Yeah.
So before their life even starts, their life has basically ended. That's what we should avoid. And I think that's where most people that oppose health at every size, that's kind of their point. Most people that oppose health at every size are not people that are like, oh, all fat people are gross and they need to leave the earth.
Yeah.
I don't think that's true at all.
Man, I don't know. I know that you were thinking, like, we were talking about this at the house, the childhood thing.
Yeah.
And, like, even at the house, I'm, like, nervous to touch that subject. Mm-hmm. Like, anytime you bring kids into something, it becomes a completely different world. And
like, why?
I don't know. People are way more defensive for kids, which makes sense, as you should be. You know what I mean? But something about bringing kids into it triggers a completely different response, especially from like mama bears. You know what I mean? Like, so like even to talk about like you're harming these kids is like, I don't want to be in that conversation. Like it just I don't know what it is. It makes me nervous, but I do think that. Like, we want to raise our, like, Play 60, that whole thing, which I think is actually sponsored by Pepsi, too.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
But, like, definitely sponsored by the NFL, which is sponsored by Pepsi. Yeah. But it's the idea of, like, you should be spending an hour outside in physical activity with your kids. And no one goes, oh, how dare you, But, like, then to say, like, hey, like, you being okay with this childhood obesity is killing them is, like, how dare you say that? And I think part of it is like we talked about, like we were talking about, well, is there benefit in bringing health and nutrition to schools, like to elementary schools, teach them about like making choices or whatever. But it's never the kid who's like, the kids choose the pizza over the salad,
right? Yeah, of course.
But they're also like, that's what they choose at home. That's what their parents want to eat. And so that's what they eat. Like, and so it's never like this child being like, I'm going to start my road towards unhealth now. Mm-hmm. But it's like, here are these habits at home that I'm just bringing to school. And so like, there's a desire to like teach nutrition and health to these kids, but they're not the ones buying the food at home. Like maybe you're providing a meal and a snack at school. Maybe, but then like, what are they snacking on at home? What are they eating for dinner, for breakfast? Like, it's a complete change in the at-home structure that needs to happen for these kids.
And it's not to sit here and us try and shame people, right? Because we grew up in a house where
we come from a very, very low income house. Yeah. Like there's a poverty line, and we were like a good tens of thousands a year under that.
Yeah.
And we lived the mac and cheese with hot dog life, the top ramen, the huge
grilled cheese with tomato soup,
grilled cheese, and huge pasta spaghetti that can last multiple days.
Yeah.
Like that was food for us. Yeah. That was it. That was it. And then
breakfast was cereal because we didn't make breakfast.
Or Jack in the Box.
Yep.
Every day before school.
Yeah, that was not good.
And so it's like I get it. But there does come a point where, like, I don't know, because I don't know if in high school, if I had that nutrition education, if I would be like, oh, okay, that's why I need to make smart decisions.
Yeah.
Like, in high school, you don't have 10 years ahead of you in your mind. Mm-hmm. Most people don't. they don't have, well, how am I going to be in 10 years if I continue down this path? Is this sustainable? They're just like, well, this is fun, this tastes good, and I'm fine. So at least that's how I was, you know? And so it's like, I don't know. And that's why I think when you bring up kids, it's like such, not that it's cringe, but that it's like, you know, like, I don't know if I want to go down that road because mama bears.
Yeah. I agree, man. It's tough. It's a tough situation. Like, there's a study that's been going out that like people have been talking about is this generation of kids growing up now is the first generation that it's very possible that they're not going to live as long as their parents because of obesity, childhood obesity and stuff, and then obviously adulthood obesity. So that's sad.
Yeah.
And, you know, what's the answer? I think, again, it's education, knowledge, teaching people, not just the kids. I think, you know, teaching the kids as young as we can, yeah, absolutely. But again, the kids don't make the decisions, the parents do. So what do we do? This is actually another thing that's been going on. Weight Watchers recently, I guess, they launched an app for kids to count calories and track. Do I think that is the answer? No. I think that is, again, it's pushing it too far the other way. I think that educating kids on what's healthy and what's unhealthy, you know, or calorically dense, uncaloric, however you want to state that, I think that's good enough. I don't think us trying to make them weigh and measure food is the way to go, because I don't think everyone needs to do that. If you have a food addiction and you need to solve that, then yeah, weighing and tracking absolutely is very helpful. Do I think kids need to do that when they are very young? No. I think that because
kids need to be kids.
Yeah.
Like kids they need to be kids. They need to have that. And like that's something that we didn't have growing up is like that safety, that feeling of safety at home. You know, like, and not to say like we weren't in a dangerous environment, but we weren't in a consistent environment either. You know, and so it's like kids need a time where like we always talk about like the innocence that kids have and they don't see anything wrong, and like that's important for developing. Like to really honestly believe that if your dad came, he could lift the school on one finger. Like, my dad's so strong, he can blah blah. Like, kids need to honestly believe that for a time. And so and here I am, I'm not a parent, but like a responsibility of parents is to provide that safety for your kids. I don't think anyone would doubt that. And part of that is like that the food that you are giving them like is going to be healthy and sustainable and allow them to live a long, healthy life starting at the beginning. And again, I'm nervous saying that because once you talk about kids, I get really freaked out. And as you know, I tiptoe around things just to try to not offend people.
Tiptoeing in my Jordans. That's a song by Riff Raff. It's tough, man. Like I think about, there's obviously more extreme sides of what I believe, and a lot of what the extremes are is saying like if a kid's morbidly obese, the parents are neglecting them and it's considered child abuse. Do I think that is where we should be going? No, I don't think it's that crazy. But again, there's definitely been cases of it's neglect in a way of just being like, eat whatever you want whenever you want. Is that a good thing to do for kids? No.
Yeah.
Like, you need to teach kids anything and everything, right? Like, that's how kids need to learn from someone. And if, as a parent, you're saying, eat whatever you want whenever you want, like, bring it full circle. If a kid read that nutritionist post that we're talking about, they're like, yeah, I can eat as much cereal as I want. If you told that to a kid, that's all they're going to eat.
Yeah.
Like, and why? Because they're kids and they don't know any better. So,
but I think, like, and I will say this, like, I don't agree that I think that to some extent it could be, for sure, child abuse. Okay. Like, I get where you're coming from, you know. But we've all been there where, like, you're in, like, a hard spot, right? You're in a hard situation, and you just, like, you don't know how to move forward. And so you keep things the way they are because you don't know any other way. You might even know another way, but you don't know that first step. And I feel like a lot of parents, you know, like, especially when you're in like a lower income that we're very familiar with, like, you don't feel like you have the power to change.
Mm-hmm.
You think you're stuck. And that is the worst feeling in the world, which is why we created the name of our podcast to be Work for Change.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's going to take hard work, but you're not stuck. Like, you are not stuck. You are not stuck. You have the resources, the ability. If you don't have the resources, you can reach out. There are places that want to help and want to provide. So, like, I think that it's not neglect of their child. It's that they don't believe that. They believe that if they were to try, they were to fail anyway. So why try?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's not a reflection of their parenting. It's a reflection of their mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And if you didn't hear me before, like, I want to say, like, you're not stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And if what we can do through the course that we're going to make, through this podcast, if we can show you just quick, practical ways to get out of that and to, like, you know, almost to jumpstart that engine, that jumpstart that drive for you, then I really, you're going to, success is going to bring success, which is going to bring success. Discipline brings discipline, which brings discipline. And then, as our good friend Jocko Willink, not actually our friend,
said, we hate him.
No, but his book, Discipline Equals Freedom. Like, when you get to a point where, like, you don't have to, if it's not a choice between unhealth or health, when you've disciplined yourself to health, there is so much freedom there. Mm-hmm. You're not wasting the energy trying to choose between the two. You already know what you want to do, and now you have all this extra energy to pursue whatever. I don't know. I think I kind of got soapboxy there, but
there's nothing.
But it's true. Like,
there's nothing wrong with working hard.
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with things being difficult and getting over those things. And I think that more and more, man, dude. I am terrified of a future that looks like WALL-E. You remember WALL-E?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
When all the people are on their chairs that have everything they need and they never walk.
Yeah.
That's scary. That dystopian future that is possible. And so, like, that's what I'm trying to avoid. I don't want us to end up like WALL-E.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today, man.
It was this conversation didn't go anywhere that we planned.
Nope. Not at all. And that's the best ones.
They are.
But yeah, thank you guys so much for checking out episode 42 of, right? 42?
Yeah.
Of the Work for Change podcast.
But if we, like, said anything and you want to talk about further, or you want us to dive deeper into, or, I mean, we dived pretty deep, but you want, like,
there's always so much more to talk about, though.
Yeah, feel free to like, leave a comment, leave a review, like, let us know what resonated, what would you like to hear more about?
Yep.
That'd be awesome. But until next time, we'll see you later.
Peace.
Peace.